So I'm not a scientist. I'll start with that. I am a scholar of Arab and Muslim representation in American popular media, especially in the superhero genre. And so the stuff that I'm going to be sharing with you today is part of my book, which is tentatively titled Arab and Muslim Marvels, Post 9/11 and Post-Arab Spring Comic Book and Screen Superheroes, which looks at how the genre has changed through a cultural history, as well as doing critical readings of contemporary comics published largely after the late 2010, early 2011 protests across North Africa and the Middle East, which is the Arab Spring if you don't remember. Included in those characters that I look at really closely, as you might have guessed from my title or the slide, if you know Ms. Marvel, is Ms. Marvel. So she was introduced in 2014 and co-created by writer Jewella Wilson, artist Adrienne Resha, and editors Stephen Wacker and Sana Amanat. She's appeared in 75 issues of a best-selling solo series, some of which you can see on the screen, as well as been an Avenger in comics and in video games. And she's made the leap from the page to the screen as part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in her own TV show, Ms. Marvel from 2022, and on a big feature film, The Marvels from 2023. She's arguably not only the most important superhero introduced in the last century, but one of the most important characters in American popular culture. And she deals with things across all of these adventures that are, normal teenage stuff like bullies and, not feeling like you fit in, right? Which I think maybe everyone in this room has felt at some point, maybe. But she also deals with things like giant robots, giant alligators, gentrification, and an evil clone of Thomas Edison with the head of a cockatiel. So, totally normal teenage stuff, right? And she does this as the protagonist of her own coming-of-age story, her own superhero coming-of-age story, or, because the Germans have a word for everything, her superhero Bildungsroman. If you don't know what a Bildungsroman is, that's okay. I had to learn how to pronounce it. A classic literary Bildungsroman, according to Sarah Graham, concentrates on a protagonist striving to reconcile individual aspirations with the demands of social conformity as they advance out of childhood and into adulthood, and it is profoundly concerned with what it means to be an individual and to participate in the life of a nation. So it's not just going from child to adult, but it's going from non-citizen to citizen. And with great power comes great responsibility. According to Lisa Lowe, the Bildungsroman in American literature emerged as the primary form for narrating the development of the individual from youthful innocence to civilized maturity, the telos or end of which is reconciliation of the individual with the social order, and elicits the reader's identification with the Bildung narrative of ethical formation, itself a narrative of the individual's relinquishing of particularity and difference through identification with an idealized national form of subjectivity. The superhero Bildungsroman, I argue, is distinguished from the literary Bildungsroman by its medium of origin, comics, and from superhero comics by a teenage protagonist who does not grow up in real time. Over months and years of serialized publication, a teenage superhero like Ms. Marvel uses what makes them different, their superpowers, and for Kamala Khan specifically, her brown skin, Muslim faith, and teenage girlhood to do good. In an American superhero Bildungsroman, the individual does not reconcile with the social order, they reshape it. And that's a pun because she's a shapeshifter. So across 5 issues, she becomes a superhero. I'm going to show you some panels from issue number 2, where she shapeshifts for the first time into her hero, Carol Danvers, who is representative of that idealized form of national subjectivity as a white American woman, blonde hair, blue-eyed. And as she shapeshifts, she describes her skin as one big muscle that's tensed up. She goes to barf, and you see her shift between skin tones and hair colors and eye colors. And she says, she narrates rather, this is what I asked for, right? So why don't I feel strong and confident and beautiful? Why do I just feel freaked out and underdressed? And the hair gets in my face, the boots pinch, and this leotard is giving me an epic wedgie. So even though she can turn into this idealized form of American womanhood, it doesn't fit right, it doesn't feel right. And so she eventually discovers that to be a superhero, she has to live in her own skin. And importantly, this isn't about her wanting to be white, because she could turn white. Her superpowers let her do that. She wants to be Carol Danvers. She wants to be someone who is already recognized as a citizen in all the ways that she, as a brown, Pakistani, Muslim, immigrant, alien, mutant, isn't. But part of her story is embiggening the idea of what it means to be American, and doing so especially for girls of color. Thank you.